Hello neighbor, this is Curt with eTrailer, and today we're going to take a look at the molded running boards from Westin. We're going to talk about how they fit, how they look, and how they install on our 2024 Chevy Colorado. So running boards, especially for a vehicle like this with a high ground clearance, is an excellent addition to just get in and out of the vehicle a bit more safely. Rather than stepping all the way up into the vehicle, it just kind of, does a job of cutting that not always in half, but reducing it so that it's just easier getting in and out of the truck. Maybe you have small kids with you, maybe you have to pick up grandma or something like that to take her somewhere, and making somebody like that get up and down from this can be really stressful, and it might even be stressful to you. So this running board here is going to give us a 59-inch running board at 6 inches wide. So a nice wide platform to get your feet up onto and off. It is channeled and it is sloped this way, so any kind of water or anything that might get on this is going to be able to run off. That'll be important in the winter months so you won't have big ice patches up here. The way that it actually covers up the brackets is really nice, and that's also going to help kind of channel and funnel things into these channels running off of the board. It's just going to make it a safer step for you. So as far as how it fits and how it's going to help us with our Colorado, if we open the door here, we could take a measurement and find out exactly what it would take to get up and into the vehicle. And to get from the ground to right here, you're talking about 25 inches, over 2 feet that you have to step up and down from every time getting in. If we measure the step up onto the running board, we're at 16.5 inches. So again, it doesn't really, cut the step up in half, but it will significantly reduce it, just making it safer for you to get in and out of the vehicle. Now, as far as how these look on here, I do think the matte finish and just the simplicity of it is a good thing. It does make for a very functional running board if it's not, the most incredibly stylish one. The matte finish goes with a lot of the trim that we have here on our Colorado today. It doesn't have as much of a sheen to it as this does, but to be honest, even if it did, all the stepping up and down on this over time, that's kind of going to go away on us anyway. But the look of them, again, really simple, really functional, and I do think that step reduction is going to help you and any passengers out in the long run. Now, installation of these is really, really simple. It is something that you could probably do on your own in your driveway if you wanted to, but if after watching this video you decide that the installation is a little more than you want to tackle, please visit our dealer locator right here on our website. It can help find a local installer for you to help you get these on your Colorado. But with that said, if you're curious as to how to install these, just follow along. We'll show you how to right now. So to begin our installation, we're going to start with mounting our brackets. And first we have to understand what locations those are going to go in. So there's going to be 3 brackets for your passenger side board and 3 brackets for your driver's side running board. But there are 4 mounting locations underneath the Colorado. We'll find one here, 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 and we have our rear bracket already mounted right here. We're going to be using the first 2 mounting locations, skipping the 3rd, and installing on the 4th. So just keep that in mind. It is going to be heavier in the front row bracket-wise than in the back. And now we'll just go underneath the vehicle and we'll check out where those mounting locations look like. So the mounting location for our brackets is going to be these 2 holes right here. However, they're not threaded, so you're going to have to install the included U-nuts in order to have a mounting location that'll actually thread through. To do that, we're going to have to take these plugs out. So if you have a trim tool, great. If not, a small flathead could do the job as well. These are, if they've never been removed before, these are often pretty tight and difficult to get in under your finger, so having something like this is going to come in really handy. So we're just going to go ahead and get those popped out. And then I'm going to take our U-nut, just like this. There's going to be a side to it that has a bit more bulk to it. That's the side that needs to be up within our frame. So these do end up being pretty tight, so I like to take a small flathead like this and just kind of twist it in there, give it a little bit of stretch and some slack, because otherwise these could be pretty stiff going in here. So what we're going to do is, again, with kind of the bulkier side inside the frame, we're going to slip this through the bigger hole and work it over until it covers our smaller hole right here. And it'll kind of click in a little bit when you get it into place. We're going to do the same thing with our other U-nut here. This one could be a little bit trickier because of this metal piece coming across. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically insert it kind of downward and then kind of scoot it over for us after that. Yep. So before we get our brackets mounted, it's actually important to understand which brackets go where. When you take them out of the box, you'll notice that the brackets look pretty much identical, but they kind of mirror each other a little bit. And what I mean is we've got these tabs coming off of the bracket facing a certain direction. The front two brackets, these tabs should be facing the rear of the vehicle. On our rearmost bracket, which we've got installed already, the tabs need to be facing the front of the vehicle. It's going to be the same story over on the passenger side as well. But now that we've identified which bracket goes where, we'll go ahead and get them mounted to the U-nuts that we just installed. So our mounting hardware is going to be our M8 hex bolt here, an M8 lock washer, and an M8 flat washer. And if you've got your 13mm socket handy, that's what we'll use to put them up. So we're going to get this mounted in its location. I'm going to start here at the bottom, and I'm just going to get this started a little bit so that it grabs on into place and I don't lose it. Then I'm going to thread in my top portion. And then I'll take my 13mm socket and I'll get these tightened on up. All right, and as I'm tightening these down, I'm not really tightening them all the way. I'm just getting them a little snug. I do want to leave a little bit of maneuverability in this bracket for when I put the boards on. It's just going to make it a lot simpler when that time comes. And we're installing our second bracket now, and it's going to go on the exact same way. And again, I'm going to leave it a little bit loose for us so that I have a little maneuverability when I put the board on it. And now that we've got all of our brackets mounted, it's time to get the hardware ready to mount our running board. So if you turn the running board over, you will notice that we've got these kind of grooves here going through it that are actually T-slots that we're going to be inserting our square head M8 bolts into. Now, it's also important to note that with these particular running boards, there isn't a specific driver running board or passenger running board. So whichever one you want to grab to go on any side, it's going to be perfectly fine. But we've got these three main channels here underneath the running board, and we're going to be using for the Colorado the outer two. So what I'm going to be doing is sliding these square head bolts in. I've got two of them closer to the front of the vehicle, so I'll insert two bolts onto each of these channels up here. And I'm just going to kind of get them in a general position of where they may end up on the brackets. And then our rear bolts I'll just insert from back here closer to the rear. So with the bolts in place on the board, I am trying to basically lay the board down and get the bolts to go into the slots on my bracket. They move around really easy and the running board is light, so it's not that difficult of a procedure. A lot of times I'll just kind of lay it down like this and then get underneath and kind of locate my bolts and get them into a better position. But I'm just going to start at the front and work my way back, getting these to drop into place. This can take a little bit of patience, by the way. But this is just another reason why we left our brackets just a little bit maneuverable so we can kind of help them guide those in. The hardware needed to fasten the board to the bracket is going to be our flat washer, lock washer, and nut. So we'll start with the flat washer. And I'm starting on the middle bracket here just to kind of, give it a little support on either end. Then we'll put on our lock washer, followed by our nut. Now, I'm not going to fasten this down all the way. There is some adjustability that can be made with these running boards, so I want to make sure I have it in the perfect position before I tighten it down completely. Now that I've got the board fastened onto my brackets, it's still mobile because we're going to maneuver it to where we want it, but it is going to be important at this point to go ahead and tighten down our bracket onto the vehicle frame. This way, when we're shifting our board around and getting it into position, it's not going to move the bracket anywhere with it. We want to make sure that the board stays where we want it when it's time to tighten that down. So we're just going to go ahead and get these really snug so that they're just don't have any movement to them anymore. With the board not fastened completely, it's still floating a little bit loose. We're going to be able to maneuver it either forward or back or in and out. So I'm just going to have it kind of basically centered here. It's pretty much got an even overlap with the back door as it does with the front door seam. And I'm also going to be pulling it all the way out because I want to be able to utilize this step as much as possible. And even with it all the way out, it still stays within the outside of my tires there. So I'm not really worried about it bumping on anything because it sticks out too far. So this is actually a really good place for it. Again, just having the most step for me to use and just kind of centered as it is. So with all of that, I can go back under and I can go ahead and fasten down the board to the bracket now that I have it in the place that I want it. And now for the final step in our installation, it's time to go ahead and torque all of our bolts down. Now pay close attention to the instructions. It does give you a torque spec and you really do want to kind of follow that torque spec. And if you don't have a torque wrench of your own, they can be rented at a lot of hardware stores and a lot of auto parts stores. But if you're somebody that likes to do things yourself, a torque wrench isn't a bad thing to have in your toolbox, and they are available right here at etrailer.com. So that's a look at the molded running board from Westin. And if you decide after watching this video that these are the running boards for you and your Chevy Colorado and you get them installed, you use them for a while, please do us a favor and share what you think about them in the comments below. We would love to share your experience with our other neighbors so they can make the best decision for themselves. Once again, this is Curt with eTrailer. Thanks for stopping by.